Hello, welcome back to VegPlot. In this video I've got 10 things that need doing this sort of time of year, or things that you could be doing anyway, which will help you going through the season into winter and spring sort of next year. I'm going to be doing everything from pruning leeks and showing you how and why I do that, right the way through to reviewing a new chainsaw that I've been given, a handheld chainsaw, which I'm really looking forward to use. I've got some bits and bobs to prune up the garden, plus I've got other uses for it. So we're going to be reviewing this a little bit later in the video. Also, don't forget there are timestamps down below, so you can just click and go to see whichever bit you want. So if you want to go and check out this Supstable video then about the chainsaw, feel free, or the leeks or the other things we've got planned for the video. Okay, right, obviously we're right in the middle of summer, coming more or less to the end of it, aren't we? And we've got lots of jobs to do. So we're going to start in the polytunnel. We are not just in the polytunnel today, I promise. We're going to go in the polytunnel. We're going to have a look at the tomatoes and other things that are going on in there. The first thing we want to do on this list of 10 jobs to do in August is look at your tomatoes if you're growing them indoors or out, and check to see how much growth they've put on, because actually we're coming into that time of year where we get the hot weather and then we're going to start getting some wet weather, and it's going to bring in blight, late season blight, and that obviously isn't good for any tomato grower because it can just wipe your plants out really quick. So what I do to mitigate that is grow them indoors, but also I prune them quite heavily. Now, not as heavily as some, but quite a good idea to do is to prune the leaves out up to the first truss, or even a bit higher as the plants get really tall. And these have got to be about 7 foot tall now, 8 foot possibly, and prune out plenty of leaves so that you get lots of airflow through the plants and prevent sort of moisture buildup. Because when you get really dense sort of trusses like this and lots of leaves, there's the potential for moisture to capture in here and for it to start developing mildew from mildew spores that are in the air. Well, not mildew, blight spores that are in the air. You can see back there, that one, that's a lovely Cuban salami. Lots of unripe tomatoes there, but yeah, a bit dense at the moment. So I would sort of go through and prune some of that out. Now I've found some really good snips, which I got from the garden centre. They're by Wilkinson Sword, and they've got this quite little pointy ends which enable you to get in there and nip out just the branches, but don't do as I do sometimes and accidentally nip off a truss. These really help, actually being really pointy. Another thing to look out for is obviously, I don't know if I've got any because I went through, there's always some, aren't there? Yeah, little new shoots growing in the axils of the leaves here like this. You want to nip those out so that they just don't make the plants all dense and so on. So that's what I suggest. Number one of your tomato plants, go through, prune out over congested plants just to get the airflow in, and then you'll end up with lots of lovely tomatoes and hopefully no sort of blight coming on a little bit later in the year. Okay, next thing, let's go and check out the list, because I think what it is all about harvesting, and especially tomatoes and onions. Right, we've popped up to the greenhouse now, and what I want to talk about here is basically about harvesting, just to make sure that you stay on top of everything, because it's very easy at this time to relax, go on holiday, you know, the kids are at home away from school, and it's just like, oh my goodness me, you go up the allotment and suddenly everything's ready and you've got to deal with it. So you just need to stay on top of your harvesting. Point of thing in here, we've got loads of tomatoes coming on all these plants. This is the Yellow Brick Road, my favourite tomato this year, which is suddenly producing, which is wonderful. We've got lots of tomatoes here, and even red peppers we've got coming on. So they've got to be harvested very soon, and then not before long we'll have all these Mad Hatters, and they're doing really well. So yeah, stay on harvesting your tomatoes. And other crops, obviously. I've still got potatoes in the ground up the allotment, which I need to get out. But another thing I want to show you are the red onions up here. I've been promising to harvest them for ages, and I think they're about ready. So let's go and get those out. Now, I've got a box with me to put them all in. But yeah, these are the red onions, and these have been doing really well this year. Almost as good, if not better, than the ones up at the allotment. And I think the trick with these, they were grown from sets, which quite often bolt. I think the trick with these is plenty of food, nice deep rich soil, and keep them moist throughout the year. And then I think about 2 bolted from this lot and 2 or 3 from up the allotment, so not too bad. But anyway, I'm going to get some of these out. I've got a trowel here. You might ask why this netting's here, and basically I put this in to keep the cats out. Cats are really lazy, they don't jump over, you know, the neighbour cats, they don't jump over and use the soil as a place to go to the loo. So basically, yeah, this keeps them out. They're really lazy anyway, so worth it if you've got some, you've got problems with cats. Right, so let's have some of these out, shall we? Let's just get in there. They've been out a long time, probably should have been harvested a while ago, but yeah, look at this. This is a nice big one. Another one here. Yeah. So as I say, these are electric, red onion electric, and they were grown from sets. I think, I don't know if I've got a label here. Yeah, I have. Hang Red electric, yeah. On the 15th of January this year, they were planted into little cells in the polytunnel and then planted out a little bit later on. So yeah, there are the red onions, and we've got a whole load of these. So I'm going to put these down in the polytunnel. I'll show you how I store them. But first, let's get them all out and see which ones are the best. Right, here we are. Not bad, huh? All those beautiful red onions. Right, let's have a quick look at some of them. So yeah, grown from sets. Really pleased with some of these. Anyway, there's quite a few in there. I need to get them in the polytunnel because you need to make sure if you've just harvested them, you can, if they're not as dry as mine, which I imagine most of them are by this time of year, you can lay them out on the allotment and just let them dry out for a week or so. But if you're as good as this, excuse I'm a bit out of breath, then you can bring them inside, and they need to be somewhere where there's sort of airflow and they're not going to get damp, and they're going to be kept nice and dry and not baking too much in the sun. So all I do is I just grab a few, grab a couple, just bring them in, and I put them on these old bread trays that I've got. But you don't have to use bread trays, you can put them on anything really, or you could plait them together and hang them up. But the thing is, just to make sure that they have a good chance to get the outer skins to dry, and so that they're ready for storing over winter. And you can see these in this tray here, all nicely dried. I've trimmed the tops of some of them, and these red ones obviously been in here about a week or two and they've all dried out. So I want to get all the others in here, do that, and then we're good with the onions. But it goes for any crops you've got at the moment. If you haven't hung up your garlic, which I imagine you must have done by now, there's potatoes in the ground possibly, and there's brassicas and beetroot, all sorts of things, courgettes, all needs to be harvested. Right, okay, let's get on with the next thing. Right, number 4 in this list is there's still plenty of time to sow things, and you can be sowing things for harvesting this year and also sowing things that'll be going through into next year. Now, if you haven't already, you can still get in a few carrots, especially if you've got somewhere warm to grow them on. You can be sowing them out into tubs and things, or into your greenhouse or polytunnel if you've got space, and many of these will be ready, even if they're a bit small perhaps, be ready for, you know, maybe having a bit later on in the year. In my last video I sowed some dwarf French beans, and they're quite quick to crop, and these are French beans, dwarf French beans Faraday, not the climbing ones, the dwarf ones, and they've gone out on the allotment last week. And again, you might get a crop if you're in quite a mild area, might be harder if your frost dates come a bit earlier, or you've got indoor spaces, you might be able to grow them in there. So don't forget dwarf French beans. Radishes, they'll grow at any time of year and really quick to crop, up to 4 weeks sometimes. Chard and basil, a bit obscure, they're a bit different, but Swiss chard, yeah, that'll do really well. I think this is peppermint chard. I've got some up on the allotment, and actually I've got, bear with me, I've got some here that I sowed put into this tray, and these are going in the polytunnel. Hopefully I'm going to pot them up soon in some pots and then pot them up in the polytunnel when the tomatoes are done. So yeah, Swiss chard you can do. Right, let's put that down there. What else have we got? Beetroot, yeah, beetroot really good. You can get some of them in now, might be a bit of a push, but they grow quite quick if you keep them well watered and somewhere nice and sunny and warm. Again, obviously you can pop them in the polytunnel. Winter lettuce, you can get all sorts of winter lettuces, some really nice patterned ones, sort of a Grenoble red, and this is speckled trout from She Grows Veg, really interesting one, that one. Turnips, another thing I've grown indoors in the polytunnel over winter, and they do really well, especially when small, they're really nice. Kale you can do, this is dazzling blue. I've got some up on the allotment at the moment, but I'm going to sow some so I can get that in the polytunnel. And then last, I mean there are many more, last but not least that I've got here is broad beans, and you can be getting some of them in the ground now and a little bit later as well, and overwinter them so that they're ready for next spring, so you get an early crop. So yeah, don't forget you can keep sowing things and keep planting things out, just to make sure you've got crops through the winter and into spring, and maybe in the hungry gap. That goes for some cabbages and various things like that as well. Right, okay, number 5. Let me just clear these seeds away so I have some space. And that is strawberries. If you grow strawberries, you will have noticed at this time of year that they're sending out little shoots all over the place, and these are called strawberry runners if you haven't used them before. And it means they sort of send out a runner from the parent plant, and it lands on the soil, and a new plant will grow up there, and then it might even send another one on another one, so you might get various number of plants, new baby plants, off the one you've got. So one I prepared earlier I've got my strawberries in hanging baskets this year. I'm going to keep them outside and then put them in the polytunnel to get an early crop next year. But as you will see here, well, I have to bring you in a bit closer, but there's a runner running around here, this sort of stem, and that's going to a new baby plant which is rooted just here, and that's given me an extra plant just in this gap to fill these up. And you can do that of all sorts of numbers of runners. You'll just spread, and you can pin them into the ground, pin them into a pot, keep them watered, and when the little plant is quite a size like this one, you can nip the runner off, and then it'll just be a little plant all on its own. But yeah, really good. Also good to clean up your strawberries, get rid of any old plants and take off any bad things that are on them, so keep them nice and clean. Okay, well that's strawberries and how to propagate them, and yeah, make sure you have a nice early crop if you can grow them indoors for next year. Right, what have we got next? Now this is watering. We've had some really long dry spells this year, and so it's imperative that you go and check how much sort of moisture you've got in your soil, especially up in the allotment. And if it's dry, then make sure you give your plants a good deep soaking. Now for up the allotment, we're just looking at the French beans here, the dwarf French beans, the Faraday beans, which I planted in the last video. You can see that the soil is really quite dry, down to about 2 or 3 inches. And so I watered them on the day, but it's been a few days ago, so I need to water them again. And so they need a really good soaking just to make sure they don't dry out and that we get a good crop in a few weeks' time. And then also the shallots. I mean, look at these are beautiful looking shallots. They're coming on really nicely, but got to keep them watered. The roots aren't that deep, don't go that deep, so you need to get them watered. And also these courgettes, these black forest courgettes. They've been producing really well. We've had masses of delicious courgettes off them, but they do require a lot of water, especially now they're nearly 4.5 foot high. Can you believe it? And it also, if you keep them well watered, it helps the plant stay strong and healthy and protect the leaves from powdery mildew, which you can see we've got a little bit here. And yeah, I'll do it in the next, one of the next points. We'll cover powdery mildew mixture. And so yeah, these need watering too. And then if we head down to the fruit trees, if you've got lots of fruit on your fruit trees and they're quite young or they're first year plantage, you must keep your young fruit trees watered. It'll help with the fruit staying on and not getting fruit drop, but it'll also help the trees to prevent them from drying out and dying. So yeah, give them a good soaking of water. I've given these about a couple of watering cans each. We've got the pear trees here, and then we've got the plums, and yeah, they're coming on quite nicely, a few on there, and also the damson. We didn't get so many this year, but you want to keep all the trees fairly well watered. So yeah, that's keep things well watered at this time of year because it's really been quite dry. Okay, next one, number 6, is powdery mildew. So lots of people have been asking for the mixture for powdery mildew and how I sort of help control it. It doesn't cure it because the spores are in the air all the time, and so your plants are being attacked all the time and the leaves are being attacked all the time, but you can help control it. Now, some people don't like to spray anything on their leaves, and they say it doesn't make any difference, it's just the old leaves and they're not getting any photosynthesis anyway really, and they're not really adding to the plant. But I think it really does hold the plants back. It stops them photosynthesizing, and if you look at these summer sun squash, you'll see they're really covered in powdery mildew. It's just been so dry and they're really stressed. Also the black forest. So I've got some ingredients here. I just want to show you how I mix these up, and I've got all the amounts so I can just show you what they are. Now, you need a sprayer. You need something that takes about a litre and a half. I think this takes 1.25 litres, this sprayer. Good pump action spray, give it some pressure, and then you can press this button and it sprays, and you can adjust the nozzle to give finer or more direct spray, and it just untwists. If you haven't had one of these before, just untwists, and then you have the mechanism inside. This sucks all the moisture up, this creates the pressure, and yeah, so good thing with sprayers is don't sort of use one for the same sort of thing. Don't use sprayers for like this for spraying anything nasty. If you do, you probably shouldn't, but if you do, yeah, and then put food in it, and it's just not good. So keep your sprayer to one type of thing. So what do we need to make this powdery mildew spray? So we have got 900 millilitres, nearly a litre of water, 900 ml of water, just tap water. And then I've got semi-skim milk, but it doesn't matter what you use. Sometimes people use milk that's turned, and this is 100 millilitres of milk. Another thing we've got here is bicarbonate of soda. This is 3 teaspoons of bicarbonate of soda, just that you can get in the shops. Then we've got some olive oil, and this is 1 tablespoon, well, it's vegetable oil, 1 tablespoon of oil. You can't see it in there, but we'll pour it in and mix it up. And then finally we've got a few drops of washing up liquid, 3 to 5 drops of washing up liquid. And then when you put that all into the sprayer and shake it all up, the sprayer helps break up the oil and help bind it all together and so on. So first things first that I put in is the water. And you just pour that into your sprayer. Quite like these wide mouth sprayers, just makes it easy for everything to get everything in there. And then I put in the milk, so yeah, 100 millilitres of milk. So basically that makes up about 1 litre of mix. And then we take the bicarb of soda. It'd be easier if I had it in a spoon, but we'll see if we can get that in. So that's 3 teaspoons of bicarb of soda. Then we've got some vegetable oil, 1 tablespoon of vegetable oil. Pour that in. Again, you probably couldn't see that, but apologies. And then a few drips, little squirt of washing up liquid. Not much, doesn't really much at all. I mean, obviously if you can use something like EcoVair or something which is more environment friendly, the better, but that's just what I use. And I just screw the top on, give it a really good shake, mix it all up so it's all well combined, and then you put some pressure on by pumping it up, and then you can release it and spray it. And we'll pop up to the allotment and go and spray the courgettes. If you've got a really bad powdery mildew problem, it may not work, but just try it and try again. I quite like to do it in the morning, perhaps not on a full sun day because you might get leaf scorch and so on and so forth. But yeah, also if you're a bit worried about it, you could test it on a couple of leaves and see how it goes. And it can take a few days, but then it should sort it out. Just have to keep applying it just to make sure that you keep on top of it throughout the rest of the season. And I use that on courgettes, yeah, marrows, cucumbers, things like that. Okay, right, next thing, number, is it 7 I think we're up to, is pots and storage and mess and all the stuff that gets on at the allotment. You've been crazy busy throughout the spring, crazy busy planting, now you're crazy busy harvesting. but you want to sort this out before the winter, because otherwise it just becomes a chore and everything's wet and mucky and so on. So I like to do it this time of year, and that is sorting out your pots and your trays and storing them somewhere where you have easy access to them. They're not just all over the place or stashed behind the polytunnel or left on the ground to blow around. Yeah, mess on allotments, not my thing. Okay, but mess behind polytunnels happens. Anyway, so what I've done is I've found these boxes at my local garden centre, and they were only about 20 something odd quid. Really good. And I've got them here in the garden, and they're waterproof obviously, and they're big, and it enables me to put all my trays in together. So I now know where everything is. Before, they were just kept loose in the polytunnel, and it was sort of chaos. And the pots as well. I used to store my pots in bags, in sacks. This has got sacks within the sacks, just to try and keep things tidy. But yeah, here in this one, I've got my pots. So pots are all organised and so on and so forth. Some people clean their pots religiously, antiseptic stuff. I don't do that. Bad plant daddy, but it doesn't seem to make much difference to me. Anyway, so yeah, keeping your area tidy, that's a great thing to do at this time of year as well. Right, number 8. This time of year, it's really a great time to start taking cuttings of things for next year, to enjoy next year. Now, I did roses, I think in video 85, if you have a look for that one, it's me holding a red rose. Yeah, you can take rose cuttings quite easily. I think I did these last year, and we've got wonderful rose plants from these, and these are climbing rose called Dublin Bay, and they have these beautiful lovely blooms on them, lovely red. We've had masses of these. I think these are the last ones at the moment, but I've been pruning them out, deadheading them, and hopefully we'll get some more. But yeah, really healthy plants from cuttings. You basically look for a long stem without a flower on, preferably. Nip the tip off, make the stem cutting really long, take the leaves off, dip it in root powder, put it in a deep pot, and then over winter it should root. Look at that video number 85 and it will show you how. So cuttings from things like roses, good time to do now. Also, you can do herbs and things like that. These are rosemary cuttings I took a year or two ago. Very easy to do as well. You get the semi hardwood cuttings, nip them off, strip off the bottom leaves, dip them in hormone rooting powder, again pop them in a pot and they root, and we've got, yeah, masses and masses of these. So you can do that for rosemary and sage and various other things too. So number 8, yeah, really good time to do some cuttings. Right, let's get on with number 9. Now, number 9 is a couple of things actually, and they're a bit obscurely mixed together, but one of them, as I said earlier, is pruning leeks back. Now, I follow a guy on Instagram called Steve Newland. Hi Steve, have you ever watched these videos? And he really is a master grower of leeks. It does a good guide on how to do them, and I've been doing it for a couple of years now his way, and that is I sow them into pots. Bear with me. Now, these aren't leeks, these are spring onions, but it's just to show you what I do. So yeah, I sow the leeks into a pot like this, all on the surface, and we get a mass of leeks. And then when they're sort of quite small, I'll prick them out into these trays individually, so they've got more room to grow on. And the reason for this is if you leave them in the pot, they're sort of all fighting for nutrients and light and so on, and they don't do as well as if you prick them out and plant them into trays. So I do that, and then what Steve does is he trims the tops off them, and that helps stops them toppling over and helps them send up new shoots and things, and means they don't rush, but they do thicken up. And so what I do is just get these handy Wilkinson sword snippers again, and I just with these take off the tips, and I leave. You don't want to take it down to this solid bit here, which is where all the growth comes from, but you want to actually snip the tips of the leaves just like that. So you've got 2 or 3 inches of leaf at the top. Yeah, and I'll go through and I'll snip all of these. Now, you could use these cuttings a bit like chives, I suppose, but yeah, just like that. And that means they stay nice and sturdy, and they'll send up new leaves from the middle. and they'll grow on nice and strong. So I've got two types here. I'm hoping some will go up in the allotment because these are Musselburgh. The ones I was just pruning there, Musselburgh, and they're really hardy and they'll grow through the winter into spring, so you get food, you know, into next year. Really good one, Musselburgh. But I'm trying another new one this year, and that's Poor Bella. I was sent the seeds, yeah, Poor Bella, and I think they might not be as hardy, so I'm perhaps going to grow these in the polytunnel over winter, and hopefully we have a nice early crop which will then be out before the tomatoes go in next year. But just with the, as with the others, the Musselburgh, I'll just go through and nip all the tips off. And it's best if you do this not to have them in full sun or anywhere really hot, because they could dry out at the tips. But yeah, that has really helped me get some really good leeks over the last couple of years, especially with the Musselburgh. Right, so that was number 9, Musselburgh. Okay, what have we got next? Right, I'll head up to the allotment. I saw this on Instagram as well. A Welsh gardener called Adam Jones. He's a fantastic chap, grows wonderful fruit and veg and stuff on his garden. But yeah, Adam was saying about now stop harvesting your rhubarb, and it's quite true. You basically don't want to harvest your rhubarb too late into the year. You basically want to allow it to absorb all the lovely sun rays and send that down to the rhizome and the roots and make it a really strong plant over winter. So it's best to stop harvesting your rhubarb about now, especially by the end of the month, and then yeah, do something different. And like Adam said, was go and pick some blackberries instead, because there are loads of blackberries around in the UK at the moment. Okay, now perhaps the one you've all been waiting for is the opening and the unboxing and the testing of this Supstable handheld battery chainsaw. I'll open it up, show you what it's like, show you what you need, how to tighten up the chain, the oil you need, and so on and so forth, and the batteries, because actually it's great that it comes with 2 batteries. Let's sort all this out, open this up and have a look and see what it's like. Now, I don't know about you, but sometimes part of the allotment or the garden gets completely overrun with stuff. Trees grow like mad, weeds grow like mad, everything grows like mad, and occasionally you just need to prune things back. Also, sometimes you get a load of rubbish like wood on your allotment from old raised beds or other things which you can perhaps chop up to help you get rid of, get in the car, or perhaps if you've got an open fire like we have, you know, you can burn later on in the winter. So now, while it's nice and dry, it's good to have a good tidy up, and that's where this little chainsaw comes in. Right, let's open this up, have a look at it, and yeah, then we'll give it a test. Right, Supstable were very kind to send this to me, so thank you very much for that. It comes in a nice sort of box, fairly sturdy, plastic box, got these little catches on, and then you open it up. Now, I have opened this before because I wanted to check the batteries. I didn't want to open it up, test it, and the batteries were flat, because that would be no good for you at all. So basically this is how it came, but I have charged the batteries. It didn't need much charge as it goes. They were practically fully charged. So this is what you get in the set. You get a little plug with a charging plug, and that goes into the actual battery, which is quite unusual. But let me just show you that. So you get these 21 volt batteries, and you can see here there's a little plug socket, and this little socket goes in there and charges up, and the lights at the front here, they show you how charged the battery is. And as you can see, when I press it, we're now fully charged, all green lights, so that one's good to go. So you get 2 batteries, they're both identical the same, and that's fully charged as well. So yeah, 2 batteries, so that's good. It's really nice. That you get a cordless mini chainsaw manual. This is the model 10C6M. This is the one I've got, and yeah, this shows you all how to install, how to tighten the chain, where to put the oil and things like that, but I'll go through that with you in a minute. Also covers sort of safety issues and things, because obviously you do have to be careful using any chainsaw, even if it is a little battery operated thing like this. Okay, so you get a little manual, you get a screwdriver, and I'll show you what that's for in a moment. Phillips screwdriver, and you get 2 spare chains. Now I had no idea I was going to get that, but yeah, 2 spare chains, I guess, for where the one that's on there runs out. So that's quite nice. 2 6-inch mini quarter chains, so 2 spare of those, which is good. And then this is the chainsaw. It comes with a cover here which you just slide off, so that's quite good. And then the chainsaw, the chain here. The battery slots in the end there, and then you have a trigger here, so you can't push that in because you've got a safety catch. You have to push the safety catch in and then you can operate it. It won't work without doing that, so that's a nice feature. You get this little oil filling reservoir. Now it doesn't come with oil, and you have to use chainsaw oil. You can't just use any old oil, that's what it says anyway. And you pour it into this here, and then you can see the levels on this in this little window here. You can see how much oil you've got. But yeah, so I've got some chainsaw oil. I went to the local garden centre and just picked up this brand. It's no particular affiliation, I wasn't given this or anything, I bought this. So this is chainsaw oil, and I presume this helps with helps lubricate the chain and the mechanism, but also prevents it flicking off, so it's probably a bit thicker than your average oil. Okay, so we've got chainsaw oil. I'll put that in a minute. Then you've got a cover here, and this enables you to, if you undo this little nut here, you can take this off, he says. There you go, just pops off, undo it totally. There you go, that comes off, and then this slides off. And this then enables you to replace the chain when it needs replacing. And this little screw here is how you tighten the chain. So if you slide this back on there, make sure the chain's all fitting properly. That's a little bit fiddly putting that back on, but the little technique I just found was you've got to take the chain guard here and open that up, and then there's a little pin which just needs to go into this metal part of the chainsaw, and then this clicks back into place. So you just screw this then back on, nice and so you let it off. So say you've been using the chain a little while and it gets a bit loose. Now I think the gap, you can see the gap between the metal here and the actual cutting blade is quite wide, and so I think it's supposed to be about 2 to 3 millimeters gap between. That's ideal, 2 to 3 mil, so not far when you pull it down, that is. And at the moment I can pull it down a bit too far, so we'll tighten that up a little bit. Now to do that, you loosen this a little bit, then you take this screwdriver that I was saying about earlier, and then you just tighten up this little nut here that you've got here, little screw thread, and it pushes the blade away and tightens it up, and then you can tighten this up. So then basically you've got it down to about 2 or 3 mil. Okay, right, so that's the basics of it. Let's put some oil in here, then we'll put the battery on, and I'll just show you what it sounds like and how it works. Right, before we fill that up, actually I should say that you also get this little container for filling up the oil which I didn't show you earlier, and it comes with a little lid attachment which basically unpops from around here and enables you to cover over the top when you're not using it. Also, I think you need to nip off the top here, this little bit on the end, I don't know if you can see, with a pair of scissors or a knife. So I'll do that with my penknife. Actually, I'm doing this on camera, so it's a bit cack-handed. There we go. So now I've got a little hole in there for the oil to come out. Right, okay, let's undo that. Open this oil. Right, before we fill that up, I'm going to fill this up, and I've got a little tray here because I know that I'm bound to spill it. But we'll do our best not to. So yeah, I guess if you had a little funnel, that would be the best thing. But yeah, pour the oil into this little container. I'm going to fill it up. There we go. No spillages. That's that. Right, put that there. Put the lid back on the oil in case I knock it over. Get this little lid and screw this on here. So this oil wasn't very expensive. I think it was £2 to £5, something like that. So not that expensive, and obviously it's going to last forever by the looks of it. Right, hide that tray. Now, so this is where the oil goes in here, and we've got this window here to see how much we've got. So if I just put that in and give it a squeeze, hopefully, can you see that coming up just at the bottom there, the amount, the level? I probably need to keep it level. That doesn't help you seeing it, but if you can see it sort of about halfway up now. So let me just squeeze that in there. And keep it level so that the window's vertical, I suppose. Oh, that's really handy. That's really good thinking. So this container, this little white squeezy bottle, contains enough just to fill it up right to the top. So that's great thinking, that is. Okay, now where did I put that lid? Right, there we go. And obviously put the lid, just screws on, not too tight, like that. I just wanted to do a little cut in here. When I filled up the oil on the machine, I didn't actually press the oil charger up the top here. It's sort of a squidgy plastic area. You push it a few times and it fills with oil and lubricates the cutting chain, the blade. So yeah, you'll notice I didn't do it in the rest, but I did do it afterwards because I cut down a tree, or pruned a tree in the front garden. I'll show you the bits in that, how much we cut, and it did really well actually, and I was really happy with it. It made the job so much easier. The battery, I'm still on the same battery, and I don't think it's lost any charge at all, so that's really good. But in relation to the oil anyway, it does say in the booklet, it explains really clearly what to do. So yeah, I've done that now, and now I know. Anyway, let's get back to the video. Yeah, just see how it works. Perfect. Now, I suppose, obviously, I haven't got the battery in, so it hasn't been a problem, but if you had the battery in, you'd best have the cover on when you're doing anything, just to make sure that obviously you don't accidentally turn it on and hurt yourself. But now, let's put that cover back on. Just slides on, and we put the battery in. So again, should slide in and click on. There you go, nice and sturdy. Right, it's not too heavy. It's quite manageable, especially for me. Yeah, this battery isn't too heavy, so it's quite well balanced as well. So quite pleased with that. So right, let's take the chain guard off. Keep our hands out the way. This guard obviously stays here. It's just to protect. And when you cut through a log or something like that, then obviously it will go up like that. Right, so that's tightened. We've got the chain at the right tension. So if I press in this button, and then we'll start it up, see what it sounds like. So not too bad, and it's not frightening, isn't it? It's not like a big major chainsaw, just sort of battery operated. Right, I'm going to take this up by the greenhouse now, and then we're going to try cutting some wood that I want to stay for winter, but also a bit of an ash tree and other things which are blocking a lot of sunlight to the greenhouse. Right, see you up there. Right, I'm just up by the greenhouse now. I don't know, you probably don't have an open fire. We've got a little log burner in the lounge, so it's really nice. But in order to use it, obviously we need fuel, and we can use wood, which I collect and so on and pick up from around about. Got a storage here. This is full of stuff, and we've got other bits as well, which I've just been storing over the years when we've pruned trees back and things. So let's try cutting up this bit of dry wood, shall we, and see how well it does. I've got a stump down here, so I'll turn you down and we'll have a little look. Take off the chain guard, put that safely to one side. Now it's good obviously to wear gloves. You want to protect your hands as much as you can, and goggles I suppose. I mean, I've got my glasses on. Yeah, but we'll see how it goes. I think there's a technique, holding it in your right hand and then putting your hand on top like this to control the cutting, but we'll just see if that's possible. Right, okay, got this bit of wood here. And we don't require really long bits for the wood burner, so just put my foot on there to keep an eye on it, and yeah, let's give it a go. I should say the technique is make sure it's running first before, so don't put it on so it's not running. Make sure it's running first and then bring it in contact with the wood. Wow, that was so easy. I don't believe that was just so simple and so easy. Amazing. I know I'd normally be sawing this by hand, but yeah, that's great. Let's try that again. Make sure it's stable first. Get it going. Easy. God, straight through like butter. How fantastic. Right, another one. Let's change camera angle, then you can actually see it closer up. Let's try a thicker bit, shall we? See how this goes. Now this is quite tough wood. I think this is ash, possibly from when we pruned the tree behind the greenhouse a few years ago. So it's well and truly dry, and ash is a very hard but a good burning wood. So yeah, let's try this bit. It's a bit thicker. Amazing. Brilliant. Right, let's do this through these knotty bits, because usually that's quite a tough bit where the knots are. I'll give that a go. Well, perfect. Amazing. Right, let's bring you back up here. I am really pleased with this so far. That bit of wood would have taken me, I don't know, 5 minutes or 10 minutes to, maybe 5 minutes to cut up, 10 minutes perhaps with a big saw. But yeah, that's taken me literally seconds. So I am amazed with that. That's fantastic. Nothing's happened to the oil level. That hasn't gone down at all. Yeah, there's obviously a bit of dust around it, but I think the idea is that you just wipe it off with a cloth. Obviously take the battery out first, and then wipe it, and then from time to time keep an eye on the chain, you know, just to check that it's not loosened too much, but that's still quite taut. So yeah, really pleased with that. Right, now up here we've got an ash tree, and I just want to prune that a little bit, so I was just going to see what it was like up at an angle rather than down on a stump like that. Now obviously this is a bit trickier and you do have to be careful. I'm not a chainsaw expert obviously, but there are some things you want to do, obviously common sense. Now this sort of tree has got lots of leaves and branches on it, and you don't need to be fussing about with a chainsaw snipping off the little ones, but also what it does is it clears space to enable you to get in and cut safely. So with a pair of regular secateurs, I'm just going to nip off these little branches here just to clear some space before I cut out the main bit of the trunk. Other thing is we've got a bit of bindweed here as well, so you might want to clear that out just so it doesn't sort of entangle with the blade and cause problems like kickback and things. So let's take that out as well. I don't know if you realise that this is facing east this way, and it blocks a lot of the morning sun into the greenhouse behind me, so it affects how the plants grow. So I will be at some point pruning many of these trees back. It's probably best to prune in the winter when there isn't so much leaf, and you can sort of see what you're doing, but also it's better for the plants. The sap isn't sort of rising and so on, and won't cause too much harm to the tree, and so much harm. I mean, I pruned this one a couple of years ago and it's gone absolutely bonkers. It's far bigger and bushier than it was at the time. Right, okay, let's got these little bits out of the way. And this one here. Now I just want to lower this top bit down a bit, so I'm going to take it off here. It's not too much up there to overweigh and outbalance me. So yeah, I'm going to take it off here and we'll see what it's like. Now it's slightly coming towards the camera, so what I'll do is I'll cut a little bit in this side and then I'll cut through from the other, and hopefully it'll all come away in a sensible manner. We shall see. Right, again, goggles, that sort of stuff if you can, but yeah, let's see what happens. Right, again, hand here or here, pressing the safety switch. So I've just gone a little bit way through there, and now we'll go from the other side. I'm just going to hold it this time, get the other side of it, hold it, and then hopefully it'll all just come away fine. There we go. Perfect. Right, let's put that down there. And we'll take this down. You see it's all tangled up with bindweed, so it's not going away very easily. Yep, they're the secateurs. This bindweed's blooming nuisance stuff, isn't it? There we go. Right, so that was really easy. If I'd had to do that with a regular sort of bow saw, that would have been quite fiddly getting in there, and also would have taken a lot longer, so might not have been as safe. Let's just put that around here. What do I think about this? Well, so far I'm really impressed. I don't know how much longer this one battery will work, but obviously I've got the other one charged up and ready to go. It's hanging in the picture. So would I recommend this to you? At the moment, yes, and I shall be using this throughout the rest of the year, and I shall do another test perhaps in the winter or something, just let you know how it's gone and what I think of it. But at the moment, it's really amazing. It's lightweight, it's quite well made, it feels fairly sturdy, it sounds nice and tight. You've got 2 extra blades, you've got to get some oil, but that's nothing, is it? Rechargeable batteries, you haven't got to worry about oil and petrol, that sort of mixed stuff. So yeah, if you've got little jobs around the garden, I think yeah, this is perfect. And you know, if you're cutting logs for the fire, I'm not quite sure the maximum width, but it's 4 inches perhaps. This is obviously only a couple, but very hard dried ash, and yeah, this is cut through it like butter. It was fantastic. So would I recommend this Supstable handheld chainsaw? Yes, I would. At the moment, it's a good little buy, and I think Supstable said they will give me a code. If they do, I'll put it down below in the description, and they're not all that expensive actually. I got on Amazon, grab yourself one of these, and yeah, really useful. Okay folks, right, that's 10 things you can be doing in August and to help you get through into the winter and into next year. Hope you enjoyed that. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.